Hey guys, thank you so much and welcome to the Game Your Future podcast, where we help gamers realize their full potential. And today I have a special guest, Jose Hinojosa. And Jose is a world champion martial artist, various forms of martial arts, and fellow Final Fantasy XIV player. Jose, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Excited for today. Like we were discussing, today is the release of Savage, so we'll get through it tonight.
Yeah, we're recording on release of the new Savage tier, so very exciting. So, being a Final Fantasy 14 player, so definitely big in the games. And how is it that you got both into gaming and as far as how you can see that playing into kind of what you do? Because you're doing various martial arts, and I'm curious to what you told me before. How does that connect?
To be honest, I started gaming through my father and my older brother. They rented video games back when you could rent them, and one day they rented The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and that really got me into it. Being a Spanish speaker, it was really hard to translate the game while I was playing. So afterwards, I got into Chrono Trigger, and that I had to have a dictionary with me while I was playing because I was having a hard time translating it, especially with the spec you lap around it clockwise 3 times. And then, when I saw that game, and then Final Fantasy Mystic Quest and other type of games, I really got into all of them are fighters. So I really want to know how to fight. And I started training Taekwondo, and then Taekwondo took me to Heron Gomdo, which is Korean swordsmanship. And then I lived in Okinawa training karate. While I was doing all that, I was doing my junior high, high school, college, master's degree, and I never quit gaming. Gaming became sort of a second life for me. I started playing online games with Fantasy Star Online, and then World of Warcraft, and then Final Fantasy XI, and then I was into raiding guilds in World of Warcraft, and that's where I knew that I had some kind of leadership potential because people will ask me stuff, and realized that the more I knew, the more I could help. And when I got into 14, I actually got the 1.0 version with the collector's edition that I think you also have it back there. So back when I was doing it, I give me a sec. I somehow I stopped listening to you. Give me a sec.
Sorry about that. Is that there we go. We're back.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, for those that are watching the video, you can see that I actually do have the collector's edition of the Final Fantasy 1.0 edition too. So yeah, so I've been around since 1.0 and definitely also been in been in WoW. Before that for me, I think was Star Wars: The Old Republic. If
That's a
you've
really
heard of
good
that
game.
one, play that one. And then way back in the day with Ultima Online. So I've
Also
been
a really good
around
one.
with MMO scene quite a bit too, as long as the various consoles. So. So absolutely understand. So you mentioned as far as I guess you started getting this idea or this sense of helping out and this leadership ability, leadership potential from playing, I guess, in the MMO. So like tell us a little bit more about that.
So being super honest, I got recruited into Karasant, one of the raiding tiers in Burning Crusade, World of Warcraft, and they didn't have an officer, a healing officer. So I started reading about it, and then I started helping with the loot schedule, and then reading the strats and watching people do the fights in some other strategies, and I actually explain it. And from then on, I will invite people to play with me, and when I see them having a hard time, I just had to help them. And then when I started teaching at my school, when I opened my school in 2010, I understood that one of the core examples of leadership is you have to lead through example. So I started working out a little bit more. I started doing more stuff. And I understood that if I wanted to get into high-end content, I couldn't just rely on people recruiting me. So I started being the leader of the groups, and I started posting that I was looking for, I don't know, DPS, healers, whatever. And I actually today we're starting 7.2 with the same rooster we've been rating for 3 tiers now, which is something I'm really proud of because I do one tier and then in Final Fantasy and then another tier with another people's to keep mixing up. But this time the vibe is really good, so we're going with the vibe.
Yeah, it definitely helps to have like the some of those same like core, especially when you work well with them, right? Those same kind of core people. So having a static has definitely been interesting and fun for myself too. So kudos to that. So having this kind of static raid and again, because I know there's definitely people that mix it up or they even pug it, right? The people that just kind of go solo. So I guess what is kind of the difference in your mind versus that the kind of pugging style going solo versus the static? Like um how has that helped, I guess?
To be honest, I think with a static, people have more accountability. So if people are really open to learning and admit when they make mistakes, it's easy for them to fix them because uh, the context that you all want to get to the same goal. So some people will get better at something. Some people will have a learning curve, which is like more steep than others. So having a static, you can also know the ebbs and flow of everybody. What do they need to focus on? Like sometimes they mess up consistently in something, and with a puck group, if sometimes if you correct them, they get angry and they leave the group, and you have to be at PF or whatever recruiting part of it for a while. So with a static, people usually, I wouldn't say always, have more patience and willingness to learn, and also a dedicated schedule, which that helps wonders.
Yeah, having because I guess when you're pugging it, right, it's just kind of can be any time, right? So you'll definitely get different people and you'll get different experiences. And I know timing definitely helps with that because I know if you do raids on Tuesdays, right, when the content drops or when it resets, you'll typically have everybody doing it, and you
Yeah.
usually get the clears much faster than if you wait till the weekend and then the people that don't have as much time that only play on the weekends. Yeah, I mean, it's just nothing against it, but it's just like if you don't have enough time to play nearly as much as some of these other people do, then it's like, well, you're not going to be as good because you haven't put in the hours. So things take a little bit longer. So understood there. So all right, so as far as understanding the difference there, what is it do you think about uh, the statics versus the pugging that I think it would be really interesting as far as that level of accountability and what we can learn about that taking it outside of the game, right? And into what you do, especially.
So one of the things that there's actually a phrase for it in my school when we go to a tournament and people don't win or they don't do as well, I always tell them like, did you train enough for it? Did you put in the hours? And that may sound like it's only for martial arts, but it's the same with fights, especially in Final Fantasy, where it's a choreography of like a dance where you have to do specific things at specific moments. Martial arts, when you do kata or gumbo or pomse, whatever you want to call it, it's almost the same. So you have to have really good timing. And people, especially new people, one of the things that they always seem to struggle is the tolerance to frustration. They want to get to it and they want to be good at it at the get-go, and that doesn't happen. And some understanding of martial arts really come in 5 years in, 10 years in. And I wouldn't say with Final Fantasy it's the same deal, but some deal of the like understanding the deep mechanics of the game really come in when you're really putting in the hours. Like when you line up all the 2 minutes cooldowns, when you already know the callouts with just a specific words. So I'll say one of the core things that you can take out of gaming and put it into like martial arts or business is tolerance to failure. You will fail. That's a hard fact, a truth. Actually, that's one of my favorite lines in the episode. I think it's 8 in Star Wars when Master Yoda is telling Luke Skywalker to teach Rey failure. I don't like the sequels, but that line there, that line is golden.
It and funny enough that one of the best lines is from one of the OG characters too. So of course, but absolutely understand. And I love that aspect of it, and I wanted to explore that some more because that's something that I also love and teach is that failure is not the end. Failure is just merely a stepping stone. It's just a learning experience if you can treat it that way. Because the only way you ever truly fail, I guess, is if you just quit, like if you just stop. And it's like, well, then okay. But if you are willing to keep going, and there's something there about like gaming, about the perseverance and resilience to continue, right? That's why we game over screen continue. Like
Yeah.
so, just simply continuing to go is its own skill in resilience. But I love this idea that failure is just a learning experience, and that's what I've always thought too. And I think gaming helps teach that. And what have you seen as far as like what you do? in like martial arts where how I guess, or tell us a story about how like half failure just has come up again and again, but you can persevere and overcome.
Well, being all honest, I've been to the World Championships in Korea 6 times, and the first four I didn't get a podium. I always landed like fourth place, fifth place, seventh place, ninth place, which are really good, but they're not the place we're aiming for. And in 2019, after like several hardships to get there, I got double podium with a third and a fourth in both categories against Koreans, which is really hard. And you can tell that also in my school, since my city is not in Mexico City. I live almost on the border with Texas. All the national tournaments are in Mexico City, so we have to travel 8 to 10 hours by bus every year. We have to do a fundraising. We have to do a lot of activities to get the money to actually go and compete. And so far, there have been 15 national championships, and my school has won two of them. We are the only school outside of Mexico City to actually win them. And being like all honest and not trying to sell it out, most of the mindset I teach them, I got it in like rating content in the games, like getting together, the fundraising, the selling of it, the motivational part of it, because people will get tired. That's also
Yeah.
another hard truth. People will get tired of it, and if you're not committed enough to the goal, you might just bail midway.
Right. And that's something I think is so powerful that we as gamers can understand at that level that says, yeah, we're here to play a game. We're here to have fun. So the level of motivation, I guess it's more easy. You can get more easily discouraged to the point of leaving if it's not fun because that's why you're there, right? As opposed to say like a career, like whether job or your own business. It's like, well, this could be your livelihood, your paycheck, right? So
Yeah.
you can't really just stop on a dime and just be like, well, it's not fun. I'm out of here. It's like, well, you're still there for the paycheck. And that was one of the hardest things. Yeah, I guess putting statics together in some of the other MMOs, because leading teams, this kind of sense of leadership. If you're trying to move up in like your organization, in your career, like you having that kind of sense of leadership it is slightly different. There's a lot of overlap, which is great, and so we can definitely teach that. But the sense of motivation is a little bit different because in the workplace they have to be there, right?
Yeah.
And then whereas like you said, in the whether it's even the static raiders, like if it's not fun and it just kind of you're beating the head against the wall for weeks or months, people are going to leave. And especially a pug, like you said, that you could call them, like you could just basically say, hey, don't step in the fire, and they're like, don't tell me how to play, and I'm
There's
out.
actually an achievement in Warcraft called Step in the Fire.
Don't step in the fire, exactly. So this kind of sense of motivation, I guess. So what is it, or I guess, yeah, how does that play into the martial arts kind of sense of it? Because I've always been fascinated with martial arts too, and done very little I'll say as far as like college level and a little bit like that is just as far as uh, yeah, I did a little bit of karate, a little bit of aikido,
Ah,
and
nice.
a Japanese iai-jitsu, just
Yeah,
very
Jitsu, yeah.
briefly.
So I think I will exchange the word motivation for drive. And usually when I teach my students, I try and figure out what drives them. And when I'm dealing static, it's almost the same thing. What drives them? Some of them like the hard content, some of them want the shiny rewards or the mount or just experience that they are doing savage content. So usually I find what drives people and keep that in my back burner. So when things get tough, I can pull it out and say, okay, man, remember what you sign up for. Like some of them do sign up for martial arts when they want to lose weight, or the other wants to get better at self-defense, or wants to have fun, which is totally understandable. And that also set my expectations as a leader and as a coach and as an instructor. Because if somebody is there to have fun, I know that if I push them to be like a world championship, they might not get it or they might not want it. So in the business part of it, I have to take care of the client to know what is their goal there. But when I see like some people, they'll say something that drives them, but I read them and I know it's totally another thing. So instead of just putting it in their face and call them liars, which they're not, they just don't know it. I try to have conversations and make them realize that they may be in the martial arts, like they may think they're in for a reason, but they're in for another reason, and that trip, it's always very fun to have with them.
That's really cool. So it's you're kind of taking them on this journey because I've definitely seen people like that where they'll say one thing, but you can tell behind the eyes it's like that's not why you're here. That's not what you're just saying what I think you want me to hear, and that's not real. But yeah, so digging that deeper, so asking those questions, and I think that's an important lesson. I think for anybody is, yeah, if you can dig a little bit deeper and kind of find what drives people, and just yeah, and not in their face, not yelling to them about it or lying, calling them a liar or whatever, but like just really understanding people, just trying to dig in to understand the motivation. I think that's huge. That's really cool.
I'll tell you a story
Yeah.
about a static I joined back in Walker. They were from Latin America, and to be honest, I'll be real honest. I have a little, how to say, bias towards raiding with Latin people because the tolerance to frustration is not as high as some other people. In my experience, that's just my opinion.
Okay.
But the first week at raiding, we were doing a protocarbuncle, and one of them says, "Oh, my Final Fantasy logs, because that's where you record your like how
Your
do you
damage,
define
right? Yeah.
your performance." Yeah,
Yeah.
he said it's great, so I'm gonna erase it, and I was like, "That's for me as a raid leader. I wasn't raid leader at the time. For me, that's a red flag because you're gonna be really like you are erasing everybody else's performance because yours is wrong. You are not understanding this a team effort. Yeah, your first clear might be a gray parse or a green parse, but it's an effort and it's a cumulative effort. So you're getting better. And when I recruit people and I ask them for their logs, I don't want them to be super high, but I want to be able to see the consistency of, I don't know, getting a 1, then getting a 10, then getting a 15, and then a 20 and a 13, and whatever, that they keep getting better. And that's one of the things that I also, with the belt system in martial arts, that's actually what you're aiming for. You are not aiming for them to like sell them a belt. You want them to have artificial milestones, which is the color belts. With in the ancient martial arts, they didn't exist. We
Right.
can delve on that, but the business part of it, the artificial milestones we put the students so they can be like encouraged and powerful through their achievements, is really a tool for them to know self accountability.
That's really, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because because we can dive into that too, because as far as the colored belt system and what I believe is kind of I'll call it to make it more interesting, engaging, and fun, right? It's kind of gamifying
Yeah,
the achievements, right? The belt system, because I know for at least because they don't even do the colored belts in like Japan, right? It's like really mostly a
they
Western
do.
thing.
No, no, they do. Actually,
Oh,
the
they do.
color
Okay,
bells, they were like an invention of Jigoro Kano, founder of judo. But the colors by itself, like the color, let's say hierarchy, that's everybody else onto themselves. I can like if I have my own school, I can put a pink belt if I want. But there is actually like people found out or they develop a philosophical meaning of the belts with the colors. But to be honest, they're just milestones.
Mm. And I think that's really important though, as far as the game feedback, right? And is very simple. It's very immediate, right? When you do something in a game and you get rewarded or punished immediately. And I think a lot of the problem that I think that yeah I've used to have, and I think a lot of gamers have, is that how do you take action? How do you get the feedback outside of the game? Because what happens in the game happens immediately. But if you do some, whether you're doing good work, at your job or you're trying to land, more business, you could take action and not see results, right, for days or even weeks. And it's, part of it is keeping this drive and motivation. But I guess, what are your thoughts on like how do we take this gamified system in your mind as far as like taking the belt color for example to say what kind of other elements of bringing into our own lives can we do?
Being honest, in my school, I do have like a lot of systems so students can have feedback. I wouldn't say day to day, but yeah, week to week. So when I was doing CrossFit, my coach told me the meaning of PR, like personal record, and when I was doing like a heavy deadlift or a clean and jerk or a snatch, I will always record if I did a PR with the day of it. So with my students, I try and do the same, but with some of the physical aspects of it, like how many push-ups can you do in 1 minute? How long can you stay on plank position? The physical aspect of it, because I know like the finer details, the philosophical aspects of it, they'll get them through training eventually. So instead of having them trying to learn that face on, I make them focus on the physical part of it. And while they're doing it, that the mind is busy comprehending push-ups, squats, sit-ups, I throw the pearl sometimes, and the meaning like, why do you want that? How long can you endure it? If you can endure this here, how will you endure it outside? One of the mottos of my school is make black belts for life, not for tatamis or like for the school. And
That's good.
that really lines up with the parents when they bring us like a kid or a teenager to my school. I always tell them, yeah, if they become a black belt, it's gonna be great, but that's not the main goal. The main goal is to make them decent human beings, like really um, proactive human beings. We actually have a code in the schools. Um, we have a in Taekwondo it's the Mensae, in Japanese it's the Bushido. In Heron Gomdo it's like we have a note with core values, and I always try and teach them through them. Like being, we have a core value that it's be a patriot. And people think being a patriot is go and have like enlist in the army. And my Korean master said, no, being a patriot is if you see trash on the ground and you see a trash can, pick it up because that's your city, that's your state, that's your country. So get proactive. And if you take that to the game, which is really fun. When I'm being static, it's always okay. Who are the crafters? We need potions, we need gear, we need material. So okay, I have a little bit of a free time. I'll get the tombstone material so we can craft everybody's gear. And some of them are not crafters, and instead of like nagging them on or making them waste their money or their time, hey, I'll just make some more. And I know that even though there is not an immediate reward for me, I won't get paid for it, they'll get the feeling that we are static, like we're a group of people aiming towards a single goal. So when things get really hard, really ugly, because usually on a static you have like weeks of prog and then weeks of where you are hitting hitting against the wall and you're not getting any progress and people are tired. It's
Yep.
those little feelings that you did to make them feel part of something greater that glue them together. It
That's fantastic.
happened last month with the Ultimate. We were progging Futures rewritten, and we really had a hard time with the schedules, with people's work, with people's ability to learn a 17-minute fight. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's a long one. Yeah.
that's my second Ultimate, and they really are a test of endurance.
That's crazy. Yes, I know. I haven't even started the ultimates myself because I know that they're quite the sink, the time sink that I'm like,
Yeah,
oof.
they are.
So yeah, kudos to you for doing those. That because I've done those or I'll call it similar content, but in Star Wars: The Old Republic, that was we did like the nightmare difficulty, which is like
Nightmare. Okay,
you
yeah.
know the Savage Plus or whatever. So, and some of those fights were just ridiculous, and we'd spend hours and weeks just doing the same fight over and over again, and it is a test of endurance, especially in with the people that you're with. And so I love everything you're saying about like keeping that motivation, that drive alive. Why are we all here together to have obviously to have fun, to progress, to get the gear, but everybody's got their own kind of little
Idea of
goals.
fun.
Yeah, but in the end, it's really to have fun. That's fantastic. So as we're starting to wind down here for this particular episode, did have a couple of questions for you. So I guess first off, where can we learn more about you, Jose? Like, do you have, I guess, website or anything we can find you on socials?
On socials, my name on Instagram is Mexican Bushi, that Mexican warrior. Um, I also have a channel on YouTube called Mexican Bushi and another one called with my in-game name. called Dragonsentia. That's guides and content for Spanish-speaking players because in Final Fantasy there are not guides for people speaking Spanish, so they usually translate it, and not all of them speak English. So I had like last month I took the homework or the project to get content out in Spanish. I just did the Recollection Extreme Fight in Spanish. I actually got it on day one, the guide on Spanish, which was really good.
Wow.
And on Facebook, you can also find me with Mexican Bushi.
Gotcha. Awesome. That's fantastic. And then, so one last question before we go, and I ask everyone, what is your favorite video game?
It's Chrono Trigger. It always will be.
Chrono Trigger. And for those that don't know, that is also my favorite too. Chrono Trigger, best game of all time.
I
I'll
actually
say
have
here.
the little figurines that they released like 20 years ago. I have them on my shelf up here if
Oh,
you want to
that's
see it.
awesome. That's fantastic. Yes. So if you guys don't know, Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo, phenomenal, phenomenal game. That's like the crowning achievement of like Square Enix right there, and of the Super Nintendo. So.
It was, yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much, Jose, and thank you everybody for watching and listening. And if you want to learn more about how you can transfer your gaming skills into, your real world transferable skills, confidence, leadership, mindset, make sure to check out dragonmorexp.com and we'll connect there. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.